On June 4, 2021, at a Quick Trip gas station in Locust Grove, Georgia, a routine day morphed into a complex legal encounter. Mr. Hellcat, parked and on a phone call, caught the attention of officers Pitts, James, and Mosley from the Locust Grove Police Department. What began as casual observation by the officers soon escalated into an intricate discussion about loitering laws and identity verification, testing the boundaries of law enforcement and individual rights. Mr. Hellcat, choosing to park at a Quick Trip gas station in Locust Grove, Georgia, was immersed in a phone call, unaware of the unfolding events. His vehicle, stationed at a gas pump, didn't appear out of the ordinary, yet it drew the attention of officers Pitts, James, and Mosley. The officers, patrolling the area, noted Mr. Hellcat's prolonged stay and decided to investigate further. As the officers approached, their demeanor was one of casual curiosity mixed with professional skepticism. They observed Mr. Hellcat closely, noting the position of his car at the pump and the duration of his stay, which they estimated to be around 20 to 30 minutes.
What's going on, man? Are you hanging out? Are you meeting somebody? Are you waiting on somebody? Are you lost?
I live out here.
So, the reason I'm asking, we've been here how long? Probably 20 minutes?
30 minutes.
30 minutes?
Yeah,
hadn't got any gas. You hadn't gone in and got any food.
No.
You parked at a gas pump. And I know the tank's not on this side. It's on the other side, right?
No, I'll never take a step of gas.
So, what are you doing?
I'm just chilling. I don't want to go home yet. I can't sit in the parking lot. Because I live out here.
Where you have some ID? Let me see your ID. Or is it in the car?
It's on me, but what's the problem?
To them, this behavior seemed unusual, warranting a closer look. Officer Pitts took the lead in initiating contact, her approach underpinned by a blend of caution and inquisitive probing. Their first interaction with Mr. Hellcat was polite yet pointed. Officer Pitts inquired about his activities, subtly hinting at the possibility of him waiting for someone or being lost. Mr. Hellcat responded with assurance, mentioning his residence in the area. However, his straightforward answers did little to alleviate the officer's growing curiosity.
You can make it super difficult, but you do
No,
have to give me
I'm just wondering why y'all. I've literally been on the phone just talking.
I know.
Go ahead and get your ID, and then while you give us your ID, she can speak with you. But you need to identify yourself, so go ahead and get your ID.
They pressed on, questioning the placement of his vehicle and his reasons for staying at the pump without refueling.
So right now what it falls under is loitering. So loitering, yes.
Yes.
Because like if you were like getting gas, waiting on somebody, like if you were doing anything other than just kind of like hanging out, it wouldn't be an issue.
Well, I've been on the phone.
We know.
This area is known for narcotic activity. It's known for criminal activity. So that's another reason why we're speaking to you. We want to make sure that's not afoot.
Right here, people will park. They'll go over there. They'll wait right here. They'll wait for somebody. They'll do shit like that.
Under a
Bro,
street
you
light?
have no idea.
So,
Well,
Yes.
I live out here.
I believe you do.
Shit.
You know, you have your ID with you.
Is the license or is the address on your license current? Is that
No.
okay. What's your current address?
The air was tense at the Quick Trip as the interaction between Mr. Hellcat and the Locust Grove officers intensified. Officer Pitts, leading the inquiry, focused on Georgia's loitering laws. She explained that Mr. Hellcat's prolonged presence at the gas pump, without apparent purpose, could be interpreted as loitering, a claim that Mr. Hellcat met with a blend of surprise and skepticism. Officer Pitts requested Mr. Hellcat's identification, a demand rooted in their suspicion of loitering. The request, however, was met with resistance from Mr. Hellcat, who questioned the necessity of providing his ID. He emphasized that merely sitting in his car while on a phone call should not provoke such a request. His tone was firm yet respectful, underscoring his understanding of his rights and the limits of police authority.
The state's definition of loitering is doing something not like the norm. Hanging out at the gas pump, not like the norm. You know what I'm saying? So we have to just kind of get out. Now, if you to like take off and run as soon as you see us over here,
But why would I do that?
well, so that's it. That would add to it, but you didn't. So it makes it look a lot better. You get what I'm saying?
I literally come here all the time. I live here. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah, that's fine. But
That's
you can't
fine.
just if you're not doing any business, if you're not getting gas, you're not
But
going
I
to
was
get
actually
food.
finna go in there. I just had a phone conversation.
Well, that's cool. But now that we've had this communication, it's what they call dispelling the alarm. Now that we're able to figure out, okay, this guy doesn't have any issues or anything like that, then we could be by our merry way. But we never met you a day in our life. I've never met you.
I've never gotten
She's never met you. He's never met you. So,
as the officers elaborated on their rationale, citing the area's history with drug transactions and suspicious activities, Mr. Hellcat remained composed. He listened intently, occasionally interjecting to clarify his position or to challenge the officers' assumptions. His assertiveness was evident, as he articulated his understanding of the law and his rights as an individual. He maintained that his actions were benign and did not constitute loitering under the legal definition.
Finish up the phone call,
Well,
go inside, do
I
your business if you got to, and then head on home, all right?
Yeah, but
Second
that's
thing,
kind of
your
that's crazy.
look, it's
Like I've never.
go look up loitering in the Georgia
No,
code section.
my father's an retired sheriff.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
I know, but I've never.
like I said, this area is known for drug transactions. We're gonna make sure none of that's occurring here tonight.
I'm
So,
literally in the public eye, and I haven't spoken to no one. And I know you saw the weird girl run up to my car, and I'm like,
yeah, they just came from a party
With
down
a bunch
in
of-
their
with a bunch
neighborhood, a whole ton of drugs, and we're sitting
Right,
right
but
there
see,
with
my-
our blue
my
lights
car,
on.
I do a lot of stuff in the community and shit, so my car is like really well known. I race at Silver Dollar, I do track events, I don't do no drug activity.
And like he said earlier, the reason we got out with you and asked you and didn't just like immediately throw you in handcuffs is called dispelling the alarm. That's all that happened.
we sat there for a while. We observed you. We were watching. Okay, this guy's not getting gas. He's not going in there. We're watching everybody come and go. So it already drew our attention. Then we saw somebody that we dealt with earlier with a whole bunch of drugs around here coming up to you. I'm like, okay.
Right,
So
and they said, hey, I see your
Right.
car everywhere, because I live out here. They said, we see your car, SRT on the side.
Hey,
I said, thank you.
which makes sense. And that's the reason why we came over here to introduce ourselves, dispel the alarm, make sure there's nothing nefarious going on. Now we're going to be about our way. Because if we thought something nefarious was going on, then we'd be going a whole different direction. You understand? But we have to dispel alarm, make sure nothing nefarious is going on. You understand that?
In analyzing the confrontation between Mr. Hellcat and the Locust Grove police, a critical focus lies on Georgia's loitering laws and the legal standards for ID requests. Section November 16, 36 of Georgia law defines loitering as an individual being in a place, at a time, or in a manner not usual for law-abiding individuals, under circumstances that cause reasonable alarm for safety. A key component of this law is the provision for individuals to dispel any alarm by identifying themselves and explaining their conduct. In Mr. Hellcat's case, the officer's approach hinged on the interpretation of his behavior as unusual and potentially alarming, a point Mr. Hellcat contested. The officer's request for identification was predicated on their suspicion of loitering. However, the legality of this request is nuanced. While Georgia's loitering statute allows for ID requests under certain conditions, it does not compel individuals to comply unless there is reasonable suspicion of a crime. Mr. Hellcat's refusal to provide identification, therefore, enters a gray area of legal interpretation. Legal precedents in Georgia have set various benchmarks for what constitutes reasonable suspicion for loitering. Cases such as Evans v. State and State v. Banks provide contrasting views on the matter, reflecting the subjective nature of determining what behaviors constitute loitering. In this context, Mr. Hellcat's actions, parking at a gas station and using his phone, could be seen as benign and not inherently suspicious. Banks, the officer's interpretation of Mr. Hellcat's behavior as loitering reveals the broader challenges in applying loitering laws. These laws often require officers to make subjective judgments about what is usual or law-abiding, leading to potential conflicts over interpretation. The conduct of Officers Pitts, James, and Mosley during their interaction with Mr. Hellcat at the Quick Trip gas station warrants a critical examination from both a legal and procedural perspective. Their approach, while seemingly routine, became contentious as they sought to enforce Georgia's loitering laws and requested Mr. Hellcat's identification. From the onset, the officers appeared to operate under the presumption that Mr. Hellcat's presence at the gas station was suspicious. Their justification for this suspicion was rooted in the area's history of drug-related activities and their observation of a known offender interacting with Mr. Hellcat. However, the application of loitering laws in this context is complex, as such laws require a careful balancing of individual rights against public safety concerns. The officer's request for Mr. Hellcat's identification was a critical point of contention. Under Georgia law, while police have the authority to request identification during a lawful stop, this does not necessarily translate to an obligation for the individual to comply, especially in the absence of reasonable suspicion of a crime. The officer's insistence on identification, coupled with their explanation of loitering laws, appeared to be an attempt to legitimize their inquiry, but it lacked a clear legal basis given the circumstances. The legal implications of the officer's conduct extend beyond the immediate interaction. Their actions highlight the challenges in enforcing loitering laws, which often rely on subjective interpretations of behavior. The incident also underscores the importance of law enforcement understanding and respecting the limits of their authority, especially in situations where the basis for suspicion is tenuous. In the aftermath of the incident at the Quick Trip gas station, Mr. Hellcat's encounter with the Locust Grove Police Department had significant repercussions. While it is not explicitly stated whether Mr. Hellcat filed a formal complaint, the incident led to a notable outcome: the termination of Officer Pitts from her position at the police department. This decision underscored the seriousness of the situation and the department's stance on upholding appropriate conduct and protocols. For Mr. Hellcat, the encounter highlighted the importance of being aware of one's rights in interactions with law enforcement. His experience became a powerful example of how individual citizens can influence law enforcement practices, either directly or indirectly. The incident likely served as a catalyst for Mr. Hellcat to become more informed about legal rights and the nuances of police encounters. From the perspective of the officers, particularly Officer Pitts, the incident was a professional setback and a reminder of the critical need for adherence to legal standards and ethical policing practices. Officer Pitts' termination sent a clear message regarding the department's commitment to accountability and the consequences of actions that do not align with departmental and legal expectations. The public's response to the incident and Officer Pitts' subsequent termination was vocal and varied, reflecting diverse perspectives on law enforcement and individual rights. A notable comment from an internet user encapsulates a prevalent sentiment: "Happy to hear that this tyrant was fired. She was a liability to her department." This highlights a sense of relief and approval from those who view the officer's actions as overreaching and detrimental to the image and effectiveness of her department. The incident sparked discussions about police conduct, with many applauding the department's decision to terminate Officer Pitts, seeing it as a necessary step towards accountability and better policing practices. Now let's have a quick legal quip with Lingo with Larry.
This case underscores the complexity of Fourth Amendment rights in state-specific contexts. Georgia's loitering laws and ID requests pose unique challenges, emphasizing the need for both citizens and officers to understand and respect legal boundaries. The incident at the Quick Trip gas station highlights the delicate balance between individual liberty and police responsibility. Understanding one's rights and the nuances of law enforcement protocols is essential in such interactions, ensuring that justice and respect for legal boundaries are upheld on both sides.